Welcome to the campus of Sahmyook University. We are going to study today. This is the white building, the administrative building at Sahmyook University, and to my built by the elder. He was head elder last year of Sahmyook University, or 2 years ago. 2 years ago, elder of Sahmyook University Campus Church. And this is built by another architect, the theology building by another architect who is an elder and teacher of a Sabbath school currently at Sahmyook University. I'm sitting in front of it, and we are going to do today the sanctuary under attack. We're looking at the sanctuary, and this today is the message, the sanctuary, chapter 12, the sanctuary under attack. And I will focus on my part, specifically. Let me go to the page. Is analysis of Ford's views. Here it is. Analysis of Ford's views. Before we do that, can I take you back to chapter 10 at the end? Chapter 10 at the end, there is a sketch that I want to show you. It was this one. The Seminary and 2,300 years. The 2,300 years system, there is the table, is from this book. I got the book, page 13 of this book, which is the full text for you to see from this book, page 13. And the person describes that actually the 2,300 years from Daniel 8 verse 14 as years were not invented by Seventh-day Adventists. In fact, according to this description here, these people thought that the end of time would be here in 1565. They thought eventually the end of time will be in 1565, calculating there was William Miller's before there was a William Miller before there was a William Miller, if you get my meaning. So Adventists are not unique, first to set a date on the basis of 2,300 years. This is remarkable. From this book, page 13, I got the information. It's not Seventh-day Adventists. I don't know which church they may be Catholics. Anyway, all right. So the year-day principle is how you calculate 2,300 years. Without the year-day principle, you cannot come through history from the starting date that they had. Just for your interest, it was there 765 at the bottom, 765, and they used an alphabet to show every year all the way through, and they ended up with 1565. They made it centuries. So okay, so we are going to look at, in our case, we are going to look at Ford's view right now. So when we discuss Ford's view, you must remember this person denied the investigative judgment. He does not accept it, the investigative judgment at all. So he rejected it, and so the reason he rejected it is because he's a preterist. He studied in 1971 and 2. There it is. The information is over here. Let me get there. The information is over here. 19 after Ford's analysis, 1971-72 at Manchester University. He studied under F.F. Bruce. And the thing with F.F. Bruce is he was a preterist. So he didn't want to see Daniel's abomination of desolation, anything else but as Antiochus Epiphanes. And Ford invented what is called the my wife will deal with that. The what? I will run in it again and then I will talk more about it. I don't see it now. I don't want to say it wrong, but that principle he invented. But basically, it is a cake half baked, which is then baked later by some other agencies, and then by some other agencies later more until the cake is totally baked. And that's what the principle is. So it's applied. The application then of a little horn is that it's on the Antiochus Epiphanes, but then it is baked later, and it is maybe Nero, and then it is baked later, and it is then Justinian, to make the final fulfillment of it fully baked. And so it is kind of a strange preteristic view that is started and stopped and started and stopped and started and stopped. Preterism is not followed by Adventism. You need to know that. The preterist says, we've got it here, that almost everything in the book of Revelation was fulfilled long ago. The historian says that it has been fulfilled all the time, and some of the things foretold are happening in our own day, and the futurist, that nothing of that which is prophesied from the beginning of chapter 4 on has yet taken place, nor can they take place until just before the end. Note, the preterist would place the fulfillment of practically all, if not all, of Daniel's prophecies in the past, assigning the book most probably to the time of Antiochus Epiphanes in the 2nd century. Yes, that's the preterist. And Desmond Ford, at Lazier View, was his credentials was taken away because he was investigated by over 300 of our theologians and scholars, and he was given time to present his case. He couldn't succeed, and they took away his credentials. And well, at that time, 1980, the whole issue really died out. It disintegrated, and all the fuss that was made in every church or everywhere where you went, the debate basically just disintegrated. And the strange thing of it is, although it disintegrated, it kind of seminated in the church, and some people accepted it and some people rejected it. So today, when you are a pastor, you have to read very carefully whether you have to do with a half-baked Fordite or a half-baked Adventist. And your fully Adventist will be cautious of this and will be immediately cry wolf, wolf. And that is why we have that is why it is important for us to know about these things. The investigative judgment is the most holy ministry of Christ, 1844 and further, based on 2,300 days, that is seen as years on the year-day principle. And so preterism has no place in Adventism on these long-time prophecies of Daniel and Revelation. The interesting thing is that Thomas Aquinas of the Catholic Church also believed in the year-day principle, but that not of the 2,300 days, but only of the period that the year-day principle for Daniel 9, verse 24 to 27. And he said, yes, it shows you 490 years to Christ, and it shows you Christ 483, and later it shows you Christ crucified. That's Thomas Aquinas. And so did the reformers. The reformers also did. George Joy was one of the reformers who also in his Daniel commentary explained it that way, that it refers to year-day principle to Christ. And that was in a commentary in 1543. 1543. Yes, it's a time of Calvin and Luther's ministries. He wrote this. So the problem then is that we have okay. So in essence, then other Protestants, let's say the Catholics, then the Protestants, also endorsed this idea, historicist principle of a year-day principle, for Daniel 9, but they didn't apply it to Daniel 8 verse 14. And that's where Adventists made the contribution to Christianity. Now let's come to this point. I want to repeat that the problem with Ford is he misunderstood the development of Adventism in Christianity and their contribution. He didn't understand that. He went to a university that is a non-Adventist university, and to please an apple shine for F.F. Bruce, he accepted his preteristic views and incorporated it in and cited it in his doctoral dissertation, and voila, it became one part of his mental lexicon. And this created, the Ford mental lexicon created enormous and expensive problems in the Adventist church. I remind you that Paul said in 2 Corinthians 11, he said, in 2 Corinthians 11, Paul said, watch this, let's look at it. He says, For if he that cometh preaches another Jesus, whom we have not preached, or receive another spirit, which ye have not received, not the Manchester spirit, but the Andrew spirit, right? Or the Adventist spirit, or another gospel, not the Manchester F.F. Bruce gospel, preteristic gospel of the reformers, but the Adventist gospel that Ellen White gave us a lot of narrative information. Although she didn't create our doctrine, they studied it, the pioneers studied it, and she just confirmed it by the spirit of prophecy, which ye have not accepted, ye might well bear with. Okay? For I suppose I was not a whit behind the very chiefest apostles. Okay? You are, which ye have not accepted. We have to be careful, the Apostle Paul says, of these people. Unfortunately, the Manchester baked oven didn't work well for Adventism. He was found foul, and there are very good material maybe like something like 101 questions at Laser View, that they dealt with enormous amount of material dealing with why we cannot accept what Ford is proposing in the preteristic model as Adventist researchers. Okay, now what is an Adventist? Well, what is a reformer? Reformer is 1.1. Christianity 1.1. Jacobus Arminius complained against predestination, which Theodore Bazar wrote a book about, and which he elaborately tried to introduce to Christianity, but and into Calvinism, and to such an extent that pastors started rejecting that book, and it became what I call 2.1, because Christianity 2.1 is the one who rejects predestination at all. And so John Wesley was also a Calvinist, just like Jacobus Arminius. So John Wesley was also an Adventist, also a Calvinist, and he rejected and built upon the lines of Arminius the sanctification model, justification, sanctification, and he laid emphasis on sanctification. And so this became Christianity 3.1. And so when Adventism came with their sanctuary message in heaven, not on earth, the whole sanctuary doctrine is Christianity 4.1. Now for someone like Ford to reach back to Calvin or Luther is reaching back from 4.1 model to a 1.1 model and try to amalgamate the two. It cannot be done because it didn't work properly. And the reason it didn't work properly is because it is not the truth of the Bible. And so this is important for us to know. The Dr. Ford Dr. Ford had some problems with Mark 13. He explained Mark 13. The author, it says here, the author then goes on to point out that Mark 13 is a commentary upon Daniel 9 verse 24 to 27, which predicts that 70 weeks prophetic years would be fulfilled, the coming of the Messiah and the ushering in of the everlasting righteousness. He believes that the first and second advents are both combined in a single event in Daniel 9, and that just as Daniel pictures no great time gap between those two events, so Christ in Mark 13 presents no gap between his first coming and the end of the age. Now this is something Adventists do not believe. Christ was not uninformed about the end time. Christ was not uninformed. After completing the doctoral dissertation in 1972, Dr. Ford's next task was to transpose the preterist framework from Mark 13 back into the book of Daniel. And his goal then was to publish a commentary on the book of Daniel. The problem is that preterism is anathema in Adventism. That's very important. We do not work with this model. another problem of Ford was that he said all systems are right, says Ford. What systems? Preterism, historicism, idealism, and futurism. He says the problem with these guys is they've all got excellent scholars, but the problems with this, historicism doesn't want to listen to preterism, and idealism not to historicism, and futurism doesn't want to listen to idealism. And so this is the problem, they don't want to listen to each other. They are all fantastic, and we need to use all of them. Well, Glaser view Ford applies Daniel 9 to the 1st century. Okay, yes, that's a big problem. And we dealt with that extensively in here. I'm reading shortly for you what we have here, Ford and Daniel 11 as verse 19 to 35 as Antiochus Epiphanes. No, sir, it's not Antiochus Epiphanes. It is Justinian and his wife Theodora who talked lies to each other at the same table. Please read. The source for this is Procopius, and I think my wife and I wrote an article which is online. It's called Q Vadis on Daniel 11. Please check it out, and it gives you a full explanation what you should rather understand 19 to 35 to be. Okay, so sorry, Ford. The other problem is if we look deeper to his preterism. Yes, preterism was definitely a very, very big problem with Ford. Now, come on, let's ask this question. Is preterism biblical or unbiblical? Ding! It is unbiblical. For specifically, unless it is indicated that it is definitely fulfilled in that day, it's preterism. But if it is applied to any of things of the book of Daniel and Revelation regarding drawn out situations and long period fulfillments, it is anathema. We do not work with that. Okay. Many of the events described in visions in the book of Daniel are said to be yet in the future from the standpoint of Revelation. Okay, the opening words indicate of the book of Revelation with certitude that the book of Revelation is a description of events that must soon take place. Remember that the book was written in 97 AD. Must soon take place. You cannot reverse back to Antiochus Epiphanes. You cannot reverse back to Nero. You cannot reverse back to the time of Jesus. It says must soon take place. It's not yet. That is events beginning in the year 96 AD and stretching on to the second advent and the establishment of God's eternal kingdom. Voila! Revelation does not focus on the past, but on the immediate and long-range future, beginning where? In 31? No. With Christ's birth? No. 96, when John finished the book of Revelation. So, yes, thank you. Now, compare judgment scenes in Daniel and Revelation. In Daniel, it is about the investigative judgment, 1844 and further. In Revelation 20 verse 11 and 15, It is in Revelation about the executive judgment. Okay, Daniel 7 verse 9 to 12. It is the investigative judgment that is described there. So they are not the same. We should not put both of them, consider them as exactly the same. It would be a gross error if a person. Okay, let us conclude. A few points. First of all, we have attempted to summarize in logical fashion the development of Dr. Ford's thinking on the subject of the investigative judgment as it relates to the sanctuary and Daniel 8 verse 14. Warren Jones wrote an article on the ABC of Dr. Ford's thinking. Excellent. If you analyze that one, you've got all what you need to know about Dr. Ford, Desmond Ford. Second, we have pointed out that Dr. Ford is a preterist, basically wears the hat of a historicist and the cloak of a futurist. No apotelesmatic can give equal weight to all schools of interpretation, and every interpreter has his favorites. Dr. Ford's favorite is preterism. Third, we have pointed out that the preterism is anathema to Adventism. A strict preterist holds no hope for the future literal and visible return of Christ to this earth. In defense of Dr. Ford, let it be said that he is not a strict preterist. Why? Because he believes in half-baked bread that is baked again by some another instrument, another oven later and another oven later. Okay. However, a person who travels down the road of preterism will ultimately discover that road leads to denial of the second advent. God forbid that this should ever be the case with Dr. Ford. Fourth, we have suggested that Dr. Ford has used preterism as the most readily available and easily used tool in denying the historic teaching of Seventh-day Adventism, that of the Investigative Judgment 1844. Okay, people, thank you very much. We say sayonara to you from the theology building at Sahmyook University, where the graduates will be finishing their doctoral course and graduate, and also the white building. See you further. Thank you.